Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our 70th anniversary event here at the Office of Naval Research. The naval and science technology, right? The future legacy of innovation and the current legacy of innovation and the past legacy of innovation, ensuring that our fleet and forces have the technological advantage. For those that don't know me, is there anybody that doesn't know me out there? Okay, I'm Rear Admiral Matt Winter. I'm the Chief of Naval Research. I'll be your host for this morning's event. And then we'll migrate out to the courtyard. I'd like to welcome our distinguished guest. It's great to see a lot of my flag colleagues, our ships and friends, shipmates, not just ships, shipmates, friends across a wide domain of organizations. Admirals and generals, senior executives, friends from the White House. I believe we have some of our congressional friends joining us today. We have folks from the Joint Services, from our sister services, from the Office of Secretary of Defense. I could go on and on and on. We really appreciate everybody being here. But most especially, the Office of Naval Research Headquarters, Naval Research Laboratory, the Office of Naval Research Global, and PMR 51. The home team that makes the magic. Thanks for being here, folks. I understand that there was a considerable accident on the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, which is preventing all of the NRL buses to get here expeditiously. And no, we have not, Admiral Carr, generated the transporter yet. We're working on the Willy Wonka vision to get people here quickly, but we're not there yet. Okay, before I start, I want to recognize the brains and the brute behind this celebration. It takes a lot of folks to do things. And our ONR team has done the great planning, coordination, and execution of this multifaceted event. So Lieutenant Commander Bonnie Brower, I don't know if Bonnie's here. She's probably out still bending metal, writing code out there. But she's been the lead of this and has done a phenomenal job. Also, Miss Adrienne Gold, Mr. Joe Tello, Dr. Larry Schutte, and the hundreds of others that have provided and are continuing to provide the work to make this event successful. Let's give them a round of applause. So our guest speakers, I will introduce them as they come up to speak, or maybe a little later in my remarks. But it is an honor to have you folks here supporting this event. I'd like to also recognize our senior leadership in the Office of Naval Research across Global, NRL, Headquarters, and PMR 51. It's important that we're all here together. Also, understanding that Secretary Stackley will be joining us here momentarily. So a welcome to you all. Mr. Khalil, thanks for coming over from the White House. Obviously, there's no bridge problem there getting here, so thank you. Finally, a collective thank you to each and every one of you. I normally say this at most places. I say, you're here and not somewhere else, so you've made the decision that the time spent here is a higher priority than somewhere else. We appreciate that. I appreciate that personally coming together, because your presence here really does make a difference. It's a reminder that the future of this great nation requires the talents, the dedication, and the skills of many people, not just a collective single group. We are all here in this room standing on the shoulders of giants. I'm your 25th Chief of Naval Research, and I remain humbled by those that have set the stage for us to celebrate this 70th anniversary, and cherish the responsibility of leading, not arguably, but definitely, the best and brightest scientists in the world, and that's you all, and your colleagues that you represent. So let me take a couple minutes to frame today's event and a bit of history. Some of you will know this, and some won't. In fact, I think Dr. Montgomery was actually there at the signing. So coming out of World War II, the Office of Naval Research, yes, I'm going to do that all day, yes. Office of Naval Research was established on 1 August. Admiral Cohen, good to see you. Another previous Chief of Naval Research. We won't clap for him, though. Thank you. Office of Naval Research was established on 1 August 1946 when President Truman signed us into law, establishing the headquarters and aligning the Naval Research Laboratory and establishing a global element for Department of Navy S&T research in London, bringing that all together. The law read in part, to plan, foster, and encourage scientific research in recognition of its importance as related to the maintenance of future naval power and the preservation of national security. The law went on to describe your mission, our mission, to provide within the Department of the Navy a single office which, by contract and otherwise, shall be able to obtain, coordinate, and make available to all bureaus and activities of the Department of the Navy worldwide scientific information and the necessary services for conducting specialized and imaginative research. So with that, and then over the span of these last 70 years, ladies and gentlemen, I submit that the Office of Naval Research has lived up to the letter of the law by conducting phenomenal imaginative research, and it has been at the forefront of some of the most disruptive technologies and game-changing capabilities for our America's men and women in uniform. Across our ONR command elements of the headquarters, the Research Laboratory, Global, PMR 51, we've conducted and sponsored true imaginative research that has changed science fiction into science fact. A couple of tidbits, mostly known to you, but to re-emphasize because this is being taped, that global positioning system initiation, highly accurate atomic clocks, astounding capabilities in radar, sonar, microwave, other RF sensors, advanced robotics and artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented reality, discovery of new advanced materials, the DNA building blocks of new technologies, blood clotting agents that have saved many, many lives, autonomous swarming boats, unmanned air vehicles, laser weapons, the list goes on and on and on. And not only for the last 70 years, it will go on and on and on for the next 70 years and beyond. From the deepest trenches of our oceans to the surface of the sun and beyond, the Office of Naval Research Science and Technology mission goes there. One of the characteristics that really resonates in that mission with me is the characteristic of courage. It takes a unique kind of courage for our warfighters, like Vice Admiral Breckinridge. Vice Admiral Breckinridge, who will be joining us shortly, who goes into harm's way by ship, land, or air to protect one's country, to protect our way of life, our families, our values. But I'm here to submit to you that there's another kind of courage, a kind of courage in science. The courage that says, what if, should we, can we, exploring the thoughts and breaching the boundaries of traditional thought. That kind of discovery, that kind of courage is resonant throughout the Office of Naval Research. The Office of Naval Research, we discover new knowledge, we develop breakthrough technologies, and we deliver those game-changing capabilities to our warfighters. And we sponsor that research, and almost always something comes out of that. But sometimes things don't come out of that. And it transitions to what I call the S&T corpus of knowledge, a future transition, a latent transition waiting to happen, right? It's important that we understand that basic research that generates technology that doesn't necessarily transition immediately to our warfighters or to a technical baseline of a program of record is not necessarily a failure, though some people will call that failure. I call that learning, an opportunity to learn and understand exactly where things are going. Alternatively, the courage to stick with that research that each and every one of you do every day, calling the impossible possible. In fact, if ONR had a middle name, it should be Impossible. Not Mission Impossible, but Impossible Engagement. Impossible because I challenge our scientists, I challenge our leadership every day to pursue that impossible. To do that can't be done, there's no way that'll ever happen kind of problems. That's developing, discovering knowledge that only God knew yesterday and now you know today. That's exciting. That's discovery and invention. And that's what the Office of Naval Research does on a daily basis to solve our nation's hardest problems. A good example of all of this are the testimonial posters that you see up here on the stage. You'll see some of the world's top scientists and explorers talking about the difference that ONR has made in their work. Some of them are Nobel Prize laureates, over 60 Nobel Prize laureates to the Office of Naval Research's credit. Dr. Geim, a Nobel winner, was an early and longtime partner of ONR as he worked to discover and develop a new material, which is old hat, but graphene, which can be arranged in, and I learned this over the last 18 months, in sheets 1 atom thick, right? Not 1 atom 12, but 1 atom thick. It's 100 times stronger than strongest steel. It's an efficient conductor in the heat of electricity and is nearly transparent. Just an idea of the activity and the research and the outcomes that has found its way into an incredible number of our weapon systems and dual use in the civilian marketplace. Same is true for the testimonial with Dr. Mishra, who notes that without our ONR support, our understanding of gallium nitride, another material, advanced material, would be negligible. Instead, our partnership with him has led to so many gallium nitride advances you can't count them anymore. They're in every one of our radars, air and missile defense. And quite honestly, if you have a smartphone, the chances are highly likely you have gallium nitride in that smartphone. Dr. Kahneman, another Nobel winner, did groundbreaking research in behavioral decision-making that he notes would never have happened without ONR. If I sound proud of these accomplishments, I am. I'm your Chief of Naval Research, but you need to be proud of those. You need to understand that you are the scientists of today that are on the shoulders of these scientists of yesteryear that have made these things come together. I'm extremely proud of the men and women across this entire S&T community who had and continue to have the vision to work with giants like these. One of our unique attributes of the Office of Naval Research is we get to do things others don't. We have the flexibility, the agility to move things around and engage in that basic, advanced, and applied science efforts. It's important to know that you can go from Petri dishes and test tubes to experimentation and demonstration and draw that DNA thread of S&T value. It's important to understand that. And our science partner with academia and industry to do that. It's important to understand the S&T triad to get that done, not only here in the United States, but again with the Office of Naval Research Global and our global S&T diplomacy mission in 60 countries around the world. Doing that basic research, discovering that new knowledge, and bringing that new knowledge that then begets new technologies, and those new technologies experimentation and demonstration of game-changing capabilities, handing those to our Marines and our sailors, and ensuring that our programs of record and those major weapon system developments, technical risks are reduced. It's absolutely an essential mission, and it's a tenet across all three fleets and forces that you, the S&T community, has. The future fleet, Petri dishes and test tubes, the current fleet under development, ensuring our development of weapon systems continue to remain valid, relevant, and capable, and the current fleet in force, helping out our sailors and Marines that are haze gray and boots on the deck today. And all that we do is done and resourced with 1% of the Department of Navy's budget. Not 1% of the Department of Defense's budget, but 1% of the Department of the Navy's budget. Not a bad return on investment, but if there's any of our N8 or folks, we could always use a little more dollars if we got some there. So. Okay, the speakers you're going to hear from today represent important roles, organizational roles of science and technology across our great nation. We have Mr. Khalil. His presence shows the highest levels of support from the executive branch in the White House. Secretary Stackley, joining us here in a little bit, is a longtime visionary and supporter of our science and technology. He really brings the full life cycle of weapon systems capability, my phrase, from test tubes to launch tubes. Vice Admiral Breckenridge, our Deputy Commander with Fleet Forces Command, shows the importance that S&T brings to the operational fleet as they embrace the new capabilities that you're bringing to the table in railguns and laser cannons, unmanned systems, cyber effects, and so on, to explore the ConOps and integrate those into op plans for our warfighters. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our sailors and Marines have that technological advantage on the battlefield. Rear Admiral Carr brings his unique experience in the Navy as a surface warfighter and as a previous Chief of Naval Research, and now an industry leader, showing that partnership between industry and government that's so critical to executing our S&T mission. And then Colonel Jenkins brings the vital perspective of our United States Marine Corps, because there's an L in Naval. The Office of Naval Research brings Navy and Marine Corps together, and his important work we'll hear from and research being done at the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab. Okay, so since 1946, our investments and partnerships across that triad have yielded continuous payoffs and contributed to nearly every weapon system that's in the hands of our sailors and Marines today. And that's all enabled by you and the 4,000 scientists and technicians that call the Office of Naval Research home. It's absolutely important, and I'm very, very proud of each and every one of you. Why? Because it's our time to lead. 70 years ago, when the law was signed in, there was a ceremony I would submit. Today, there's a ceremony. The 140th anniversary, there'll be a ceremony. It's important that we recognize the accomplishments and the understandings not only of individuals, but of organizations that make a difference. It's our time to lead, and it's our turn to continue to be the stewards of the ONR S&T mantle well into the future. You have that responsibility. You're executing it really well. We need to continue to put our shoulders into that, because America is a maritime global nation with responsibilities around the globe, and the demand on us should be no less. No less so that our men and women in the Navy and the Marine Corps have and continue to have that technological advantage so they can keep the peace. But when they need to fight, they fight the fight with overwhelming odds, away games, and win, and also come home safe. That technological advantage on the battlefield is complemented by, and we are committed to, through that S&T triad, to the technological advantage in our laboratories, ensuring that the intellectual capital and the growth, development, and support of our workforce, while holding them and you accountable for those measurable outcomes, is a core tenet of the Office of Naval Research's mission. I'm excited about the work we've been doing. I'm excited about the work we're going to be doing. And I know that our Navy and Marine Corps is in good hands with the science and technologists here in the Office of Naval Research leading the charge.